Our first feature today is Jamaica Heolimeleikalani Osorio. I practiced that for a week. I hope it was close. Jamaica is a poet, a rugby player, and a student at Stanford with an aim to be a lawyer. Is that all? God damn. Jamaica comes around here like, look busy. Look busy. Let's do something, just, you know. She's a wonderful poet. I heard so many great things about her before I ever met her, and I'm so thrilled that she's part of this series. She has a lot of accolades. Youth Speaks, correct? And Brave New Voices. She performed for some couple, like Barack and Michelle Obama. I think they're in politics or something. Yeah, so she performed for them, and we're just really lucky that she's here with us in Minnesota, here at EQ, for the first time with snow and poetry and all you beautiful people. Are you excited to welcome Jamaica? Minnesota, make some noise for Jamaica Osorio!
Travel really heavy. What happens to the ones forgotten? The ones who shape my heart from their rib cages. I want to taste the tears in their names, trace their souls onto my vocal cords so that I can feel related again, because I have forgotten my own grandparents' middle names. Forgotten what color thread God used to sew me together with. But there is a culture, a people, somewhere beneath my skin that I have been searching for since I landed here, but it's hard to feel sometimes because at Stanford, we are innovative. The city of Macintosh breeds thinkers of tomorrow, so I have forgotten how to remember, but our roots cannot remember themselves, will not remember how to dance unless we are chanting for them, and will not sing unless we are listening, but our tongues, they feel too foreign in our mouths. We don't dare speak out loud, so we can't even pronounce our own parents' names, but who will care to remember mine if I don't teach them? I want to teach my future children how to spell family with my middle name, Heolimeleikalani, how to feel love with Kamaka Viva Ole, how to taste the culture and the Kumulipo. Please, do not forget me. My soul, my father, Kamaka Viva Ole, who could not forget his own Lealoha. Do not forget what's left, because this is all we have, and you won't find your roots online. We have no dances or chants if we have no history, just rants. No roots, just tears. This is all I have of my family history that's real, and now it's yours. O Elroy Thomas te aloha Osorio Hekane, o Clara ke ku'ule he wahine, noho pulaua a hano ia o Jonathan ke kamaka viva ole Osorio Hekane. O Jonathan ke kamaka viva ole Osorio Hekane, o Mary Carol Dunn he wahine, noho pulaua a hano ia o Jamaica Heolimeleikalani Osorio he wahine. Do not forget us. Mai poina. Awesome. So, like Bao said, my name is Jamaica Heolimeleikalani Osorio. I like to start with that poem a lot because it explains a lot of who I am. The ending is a very short version of my mo'oku auho, which is a genealogy. So I explained who my grandmother and grandfather were, and my father and my mother and stuff like that. And so it's a good way to kind of get into things, especially as a Native Hawaiian. All we ever do is introduce ourselves as where you came from, where your father was born, where your mother was born, what's their names, right? So you got to start somewhere. I'm really, really happy to be here, especially because because we're inside. I was going to say I'm happy it's snowing, but I'm not really sure that's true. But it was really pretty to see like the snowfall from my hotel room while I was bundled in covers, and the thermostat was set at like 70, and I was like shivering. It was great. So I'm gonna read a few poems for you guys, just gonna get into it. Excuse my like awkward movements. Traveling when you have like random rugby injuries and getting on airplanes is like the stupidest idea ever. So I can't really bend my knees, but here I am. Awesome. So I don't know if y'all heard about it, but In October of 2010, there was like a small little earthquake in Chile, right? Kind of big deal. And there was a tsunami warning in Hawaii, and we get those every once in a while, and most of the time we just say whatever, it's not gonna happen because it never happens. But I was in California at school when the warning came out and clearly freaked out. So this is a product of that. When it gets cold outside and you got nobody to love, understand what I mean when I say ain't no way we're gonna give up. And like a little girl cries in her bed at the monsters that live in her dreams. Is there anyone out there? 'Cause it's getting harder and harder to breathe. 2 weeks ago, our tornadic earth ticked in the aftermath of God's anger. Haiti felt catastrophe shaking in the number 7. The death toll is 233,000 and counting. Today, Chile felt the same. Learning to find fear, and 8.82 million people have been displaced. I'm sitting at my computer watching the number rise. It feels too much like Haiti, Katrina, Indonesia. It's been 50 years since Chile has been shaken like this, when in the 1960s, 6,000 dead bodies fell to the cracks, 60 sunk in Hawaii. They call this global warming. The climate is correcting itself. I call it earth rattling, quaking, plate shifting, tsunami lifting. The sea is rising. And in my tiny Honolulu town, that means underwater homes, there is a wall of water taunting my homeland. I'm 2,000 miles away. The phone lines are hollow like open graves in Hawaii. Brown bodies are born asthmatic, choking from first inhale, running from an aquatic mountain. Is there anyone out there? It is no wonder we cannot breathe. This is reality. Global warming will break the foundation of a community without even shaking the penthouse suites, while the men and women who finance the Earth's deterioration play the role of its saviors, sipping martinis in hybrid glass-bottom boats, tallying the brown bodies that float by. This society's roots are sinking in quicksand, our hands above our heads, trying to form prayers for relief funds, hoping the government might soon start funneling money back into education so the next generation, if there is one, will learn how to prevent this from ever happening again. It is as if the government thinks if we are uneducated, we can't be ashamed of them. Won't understand that the elite only have faith in the privately educated, that the rest of us don't stand a chance. We have made life a privatized institution. Only the privileged can afford to survive. Cut the crap, it's 2010. Chile has just been hit by an 8.8 magnitude earthquake, sending a tsunami to Hawaii. But you see, we were lucky, because the tsunami barely hit Hawaii shores, but our children were already sinking anyway, because the government's idea of a solution to an economic depression is furlough fragments. Instead of cutting from a $1 trillion war, we have taken school days from our offspring, and we all know the environment is dying because our legislation is failing at teaching our children to sprout through concrete. Enough with the quick fix band-aids and budget cuts. It is time to fill classrooms, not empty them. Unloading our brown bodies overseas to fight terrorism will not lighten this island enough to keep it afloat. It is 2011. It is time for a solution. Time to stop counting backwards to Haiti, Chile, Indonesia. Do not let the rhetoric fool you. There is nothing natural about the way we have destroyed our planet. Haiti is just 9/11 from a different angle. We are all our own worst enemies, terrorists dressed as patriots. Look around you. The death toll is rising with the sea level. We are all still counting sinking bodies. It is time to decide who is going to be privileged enough to survive next time. Is there anyone out there? 'Cause it's getting harder and harder to breathe. And an artist, a professional musician. Because of that, I was sent to a Hawaiian immersion school from kindergarten through 7th grade. And I kind of struggled being there, mostly because it was a small school and kids are catty. But I struggled with why I was there, and I knew that we weren't getting the same education that other kids were getting, and I felt stupid when in other situations, because I couldn't read English until 6th or 7th grade, and other catty kids will make you feel dumb for that. So I wrote this poem, and it really means a lot to me, and I don't do it that often, but it's nice to do really far away from home when it's snowing outside. Whatever. On my first day of elementary, on my first day of Hawaiian immersion school, my teacher wouldn't let me use the bathroom. Not until I could ask her in Hawaiian. I was 5. We shared similar skin tones, talked with different tongues, opposite accents. Parents are supposed to prepare their children for kindergarten, but mine strapped landmines to my melon and threw me into the deep end and told me to swim, so I tread. Taught being brown is cursed, but to wear it like pride, cultured. To staple a new vocabulary to my cuff every morning, learning words that would satisfy my cultural thirst, forget happiness. Cultural renaissance comes first, but the seeds of the sovereignty leaders' trees are cut from the branches early, sacrificed to the cause. But children, we do not understand the meaning of sacrifice. That prices are needed to be paid in order for anything to be saved, only learn that self-preservation takes precedence, but are given no tools in implementing self-defense. So backwards in our minds, we learn to tear our husk from our peers, how to curse from our fathers and hate from our mothers. From whom do we learn to heal? Our grandmothers are the only ones who have learned to forgive, and we can't even speak the same language as them. So we race against the decay of textbooks, trace the cuts of colonialism in our skin because the words of our kings have become bitter on our tongues like sourport. We rinse our mouths with our regrets, trying to find purpose. Learning sacrifice is a tool our mothers preach like martyrdom. It tastes the same to us, but is forced from our lips in different names. When do we learn anything other than blame? That shame is more than skin deep, and our mothers cannot scrub it away before bedtime. There is resentment beaten into our kneecaps like aiha'a, sweat respect at the feet of our kumu. From muscle to memory, we follow orders hella. Place tired foot on cold floorboard. Kaholo, we kaholo. Jump, we jump. Practice makes perfect robots, so we dance for our fathers, our grandmothers. We learn protocol before nursery rhymes, perpetuate cycles like wildfire. We are the sacrificed, the lucky enough to learn a half-dead language, but not given the choice whether which tongue is split at the end of the day, and whether the splinters of the remains pierce our hearts or our brains. At the end of the day, are the two the same? If we are the future, does that mean we cannot claim our own present? I have very few regrets. Most notably, not being able to love myself through adversity while second-guessing my parents' decision to send me on an awkward path towards education. There are some things in life's lessons that I have managed to miss. But I've gone through the equation, not able to simplify a variable to come to any other conclusion than this. Sacrifice is nothing to find shame in, only strengthen the remains of my self-esteem and the fact that I got to the system able to read. I find comfort in my ability to understand sacrifice and to know that it is rarely ever a choice. And what we didn't understand back then is that fighting for your culture is not sacrifice, it's duty. So I'm doing a lot of heavy stuff, kind of. And I'm going to do something I don't do often, which is read off of my phone, because I don't have a printer, and so I tell people I'm saving the environment. But I don't want you guys to think too highly of me. I'm also like a really angsty 21-year-old. So I write like angsty love poetry. So I'm actually doing a project, and have been for the last 864 days, where I write a poem every single day. I post it on a blog. And I have this book that I'm selling. I only have like 15 with me. Because I ran out in Madison. But basically, it's my opinion of the best poems of the first 500 days. So I'm selling those for $10. If you guys want one, you have to be really nice and come quickly. Or I can give you my email address and I can send you one. But anyway, this is a poem that's a part of that project, and I'm really proud of the project that I've gotten this far. It started off as a project where I would write a poem a day for a month, which a lot of poets do in April. But I started in July, like 2 years ago, and I got to 30 days, I was like, this is boring. So I was like, I'll do 100 days. And I got to 100 days, and I'm like, well, now I'm just kind of used to this. So I was like, okay, I will do a year. And then I got there, I was like, whatever, let's do 1,000 days. So I actually think I will quit at 1,000 days. It's really hard, y'all. It's hard. Okay, anyway. Do any of you guys like Sarah Bareilles? Yeah. I'm like in love with her in a very like serious way. Yeah. Anyway. There'll be girls across the nation that'll eat this up. Babe, I know that it's your soul, but could you bottle it up? You will revel in the way I say your name, how the weight of it bounces off concrete. You will wait for me to open doors, to sing you to sleep, to fling songs into your body as you pulse under me. You will call it sexy. I will not know of any other way to keep myself from falling into you completely, so I will keep singing. I am aiming to be somebody that somebody trusts. Through delicate soul, I don't claim to know much. You let your hand fall just a little further from your body, begging me to hold you, and I will. I will kiss your cheek, your wrist, your lips. When I kiss your forehead, a part of me will jump through my body and take home in yours. You will not feel my entry, but I will feel my own absence. Something about it will leave me feeling empty, so I will keep singing. You will watch me on TV, on YouTube, on your phone, a computer, at a friend's house. When I gain the confidence to walk across the room to you, introduce myself, extend my hand, you will say that you know me. I will be surprised and not understand what you mean, but excited at the possibility that maybe you were the spirit I felt the night before on stage. You will see me perfected, the parts of me I practice in front of mirrors, only what is left after I've been cut and edited. You will see me then, stripped of all my human, and you will want to be a part of the masterpiece of the story, want me to be your introduction to women who dress and sing like me, want me to hold you because my hands are softer than your boyfriend's and I know how to make your body move right. You will want me then, and I will let you. Take a piece of every poem, call it your own. When you say that every time I read a love poem that you wish it were about you, I will write you your own. You will be terrified and not listen, not hear the words, just see my body moving on stage. Call it anything other than honest. You will be wrong, I will be hollow. When I fall in love, you will think you are lucky, that you have caught the uncatchable, that I have written my last poem for the beautiful things I see. You will think you are special, that you can be the one to tie my hands behind my back. You will only be partially wrong. You will think you love me because your heart drowns when you think of the tsunamis behind my voice. But you will not be ready to see me after the curtains close, when the imperfect parts find their way back home, when I am not so memorized and refined. You will wonder why you came in the first place. You never wanted human, you wanted magic. The flashing lights, the stage presence, the tears I've shed on stage. You will call my vulnerability sexy, but only when you are drinking it from the other end of a microphone. You will not want to stay the night and listen, not know why I need to be told what your love means. You will not understand why I need you to count the ways over and over until it's etched onto the center of my chest. I will ask you again before you are finished. You will not know how I wait for you to reach your hand a little further from your body, how I will need to be held every once in a while. Need someone imperfect to call me beautiful, to see me in all the worst lights, when the words don't come out right and nothing rhymes and my hands are too heavy and you are not rising under me. I will need you to try to look into my ugly, my insecure, my love, my human, and maybe, and maybe, and maybe still want to stay the night. So I'm a comparative studies and race and ethnicities major at Stanford, which means I do ethnic studies kind of, which is really fun. And because it's kind of, people call it kind of a cruise major because you don't have that many, you're not like an engineer. I'm actually only on campus writing a thesis and playing rugby, which is why I've been traveling for the last 2.5 weeks. But anyway, I had to take a class called Intro to Comparative Studies and Race and Ethnicity, and the professor was really problematic and said in class one day, we don't grow up knowing that people of color are underrepresented in university classrooms. And to me, it was just like this wild lie. And then like I stood up and told her that I don't think that's true. And then all the other brown people were like, yeah, that's not true. And then she's like, oh, I meant we by white people. And I was like, oh, great. Awesome. So I wrote this poem. Also, Stanford is not a horrible place. Anytime I talk about Stanford in a poem, I say really horrible things about them. Whatever. They can handle it. So yeah, my mother grew up white in Detroit, 12 Mile. Royal Oak, Michigan in the 1960s, where young children, privileged enough to be born on a certain side of the line, played Red Rover and picket fences, just a pebble's throw from 8 Mile Road. One of America's most defining city suburb lines where institutionalized racism learned to procreate in a time where an integrated neighborhood was deemed unstable. Redlining was used as a restrictive covenant that determined where people of color could live and buy homes. City officials drew the maps and watched the city sink into soil. And in these streets, the red lines still run deep. Like the feet of diasporic people flee, and in 2010, the city seems to be burning from the inside out. Realtors using our skin as charcoal. The blacker, the faster they burn, the happier the customer, who are not afraid to say, we want no color here. But it ain't just Detroit. It's Philadelphia, the 5 boroughs, how our communities turned ghettos began to burn. Best believe it's the dirty South, Los Angeles. It's not like we didn't already know that racism had plagued every inch of American soil at Stanford. We learn these facts at a distance. In our suburban cul-de-sac bubble, we pretend the diversity in our classrooms means that we have come far from our past and that far is enough. We throw the word post-race around as if racism is something we have beaten when we know we aren't even in remission. Those of us born on a certain side of the line remember the taste of race enough to identify what it is and what it isn't. It's my ethnic studies teacher saying that we don't grow up knowing that people of color are underrepresented in university classrooms. It's my white classmates agreeing with the statement. It's the brown bodies in the room that don't even need to open our eyes to see it. It's Oscar Grant's murderer getting away with involuntary manslaughter when you can watch the entire interaction on YouTube. It is the language, how it doesn't fit right on our tongues. It's the history books, accents. It's the process we go through to teach ourselves that this is wrong, never learning how to fix it. That would be way too dangerous. It would only darken the lines between us as if sitting in this filth doesn't. We play discussions with history as if we didn't even learn the lessons. And we've read of the lynching. Whether erased from Texas textbooks or not, we will remember how black bodies hung in the deep South, white men fronting whiter capes, playing God, making angels of young boys. We watched as their halos fell below the jawline, only gasping at the cracking noise of bone to skin to rope, how something other than weight hung in the air those days. It is heat, it is hate, and it is screaming our names. So what happens when in Arizona, black, queer, Chicano, and any literature other than white is banished from the classroom to the furnace? How fast are we burning now when you add the books, when all you can read are white pages? When will there be enough room for our black and brown bodies in this institution? There was enough white between the lines without having to banish the words. Can you see the smoke rising? The ink hanging. Can you breathe through the hypocrisy or slice it? Can you taste it? How in the last 2 years, unemployment rose from 8 million to 16, while wealth held by millionaires in the United States rose by 18%. It is 2011. Some lines have only thickened since the 60s. The government is playing maintenance while we are burning in the aftermath. Our homes are ground zero. Nobody comes to visit. No one sees anything but dirt, but just beyond 8 Mile Road, there is a town where young children, privileged enough to be born on the certain side of the line, play Red Rover and picket fences. We can see them from where we hang. It is almost as if we can reach them from the darkness. I wrote this a few years ago when I decided I wanted to start touring a little bit because my mentor said I write really good poetry, but people always want to kill themselves when they leave. So this is kind of, it's really cheap, verbatim, that's what she said, I'm depressed people. And you should have seen my poetry back then, it was so sad. So I wrote this poem, it's a little uplifting. You might not be able to tell in the beginning. But also, there's a little nursery rhyme in the beginning that my mentor thought that I should it would like add something to my poem. And I added it thinking that people had heard of this nursery rhyme. No one has ever heard of this nursery rhyme, but whatever. It's a good poem, I think. Anyway, I get kind of awkward when I'm done, and I'll just like say goodbye and thank you all. But I would love to talk to anyone after the show about my poetry or Hawaii, or if you guys want to buy or steal a book, that's cool too. In America, there are nursery rhymes hidden under classroom tables teaching children to count binaries like birthdays. 1 crow means star. 2 crows mean joy. 3 crows a wedding. 4 crows a boy. 5 crows mean silver. 6 crows mean gold. And 7 crows a secret that's never been told. And I've been thinking a lot about counting crows lately. 1 crow means star. I've been wondering if anyone would ever carve my name into their skin, better on their heart. I've been thinking about slitting my wrist or splitting my soul, wondering if there is a difference. And what's worse, I touched my scarred smile for the first time today in months, and was reminded of its brokenness, how it's fake and salty, and wondered how I've forgotten the taste of my own 2 split lips, too. 2 crows mean joy. This afternoon, I watched a straight couple embrace at a stoplight and wondered, when was the last time I could write myself to that space? I spent the next hour and a half wondering what's the difference between lying in love and lying in bed. Does it taste the same? Like plastic. When we break, are we the same? Is your heart symmetrical like rifle chambers? Do you ever get to choose who you shoot? Do you ever wish you had 2, one to hide and one to show? Or would that feel a little too awkward for comfort for you? 3 crows a wedding. Tomorrow morning, I will lay on the rooftop of a stranger's skin, gaze at the stars and wonder, how many of them are dead like we all could be? A facade of light and beauty, but at a distance too far for anyone to notice them dying in the injustice. I will wonder how long my arms are, and how tired they'll be by the time I'm 30 from pushing people away. Wonder, do the broken fade or just disappear? Wonder, do stars leave traces to the places they've traveled? Do the other stars remember them when they are gone? Are there enough to fill the darkness left? Are people like stars, easily forgotten unless in constellations? Do the ones that make pretty pictures ever die? If I was a piece of the Big Dipper, would I be immortalized, shine there, even after my space was filled with night? Will I ever just be a piece of someone's imagination? Do the lights in our hearts shine when we cry? Are we all really in the sky being told to reach for something that doesn't exist? Are we ignorant or lucky for believing in it? Does God really care if we pray to him or ourselves? Is it all relative? Is expecting tomorrow a sin? Should I care that I will probably be condemned for this? 4 crows a boy, 5 crows mean silver, 6 crows mean gold. I'll spend the next week wondering if I was a rooftop or an invitation. While hearing the word curves makes me think of beautiful women, but rarely gets me off, and why beauty is always in the eye of the beholder, but my sight was too weak to ever grasp anything so heavy like a secret. 7. 7 crows, a secret that's never been told. This afternoon, I spent an hour and a half contemplating my own existence until I realized that if every face I give this world is fake, then so is every breath. And if I am not honest enough to be broken, then I am sure I never really existed. I must have been born half a beat before my death. I will know. I was never a star, just a picture of something thought to shine. I was painted that color, watched as I tried to fit somewhere in its shadow. So tonight, I will shoot my soul to the moon, wondering if all the planets always have to revolve around the biggest star of the world. Might ever dance with me, keep your eye on my trail, find beauty in me broken. Watch me. I'm soaring and shining for the first and last time. Make a wish. Thank you.